Dinosaurs are the most famous animals that ever lived, but almost everything we think we know about them is wrong. Every movie scene, every textbook illustration, every childhood memory is built on assumptions scientists have spent the last 20 years systematically destroying. That's why today I'm breaking down the 12 biggest dinosaur mysteries that still have paleontologists arguing in 2025, starting with the one question everyone's been asking for over a century: T-Rex arms. The most iconic dinosaur on Earth has the most ridiculous arms in history. We're talking about a 13-meter-long, 8-ton apex predator that could bite through a car, equipped with arms roughly 1 meter long. That's shorter than its own skull. Kevin Pedian from UC Berkeley did the math, and it's the equivalent of a 6-foot-tall human with 5-inch arms. Makes no sense. But here's the thing. Those tiny arms were absolutely jacked. Biomechanical studies show each arm could exert about 180 kilograms of force. The bones were thick with massive muscle attachment sites. The claws, 2 sickle-shaped digits measuring 8 to 10 centimeters long, could clearly shred flesh. So they weren't useless. The question is, what were they actually for? Stephen Stanley argued in 2017 they were adapted for vicious slashing at close quarters. His logic was that reducing from 3 fingers to 2 concentrated 50% more pressure per claw. Critics immediately pointed out that T-Rex would need to literally press its chest against prey to reach anything with those stumps. Then in 2022, Padian dropped a completely different theory. He proposed the arms shrank specifically to avoid being bitten off during group feeding. Think about it. If tyrannosaurs fed together like Komodo dragons, where feeding frenzies get violent and animals bite each other, then having massive exposed arms near your packmate's jaws is a hemorrhage waiting to happen. And here's where it gets weird. In 2022, scientists discovered Meraxes gigas in Patagonia, a completely unrelated dinosaur that independently evolved the exact same body plan. Massive skull, pathetic arms, that's at least the 3rd time this happened across different dinosaur families. But if you think tiny arms are strange, wait until you hear how slow T-Rex actually moved. T-Rex speed. Few movie scenes are more iconic than the T-Rex chasing a Jeep at highway speed in Jurassic Park. Few are also more completely wrong. The scientific consensus has shifted dramatically over the past 2 decades, and the numbers are honestly embarrassing. T-Rex wasn't a sprinting nightmare. It was a power-walking colossus. The death blow came in 2002, when John Hutchinson and Mariano Garcia published their calculations in Nature. For T-Rex to run at the 45 miles per hour Robert Bakker claimed, it would need 43% of its entire body mass dedicated to leg muscles. Per leg. That's physically impossible. In 2017, William Sellers at the University of Manchester made it worse. His team combined skeletal stress analysis with locomotion modeling and found that at those movie speeds, T-Rex would literally shatter its own foot bones with every step. Maximum safe speed, roughly 12 miles per hour. Walking gaits only. Then, in 2021, researchers took a completely different approach. They modeled the natural resonance frequency of T-Rex's tail like a suspended elastic structure. The result, a preferred walking speed of just 4.6 kilometers per hour. That's human walking pace. However, a 2024 study pushed back slightly, estimating adult T-Rex could burst to 17 to 24 miles per hour for short distances. Still nowhere near Jurassic Park, but here's the ecological twist. T-Rex didn't need blazing speed because its prey couldn't run fast either. Multi-ton hadrosaurs and ceratopsians faced the exact same biomechanical constraints. Hutchinson's research suggests T-Rex used a puncture pull hunting method. Deliver a devastating bite, rip backward with that powerful neck, let the prey bleed out. No chase required. The Jurassic Park scene itself is actually proof of this. Fans have analyzed it frame by frame, and the T-Rex always keeps 1 foot on the ground at a slow cadence. The camera work makes it look fast, but the animal is probably moving 10 to 15 miles per hour maximum. Hollywood knew the science even in 1993, they just made it look better. At least T-Rex had a clear identity, unlike Triceratops, which might not even be a real species. Triceratops versus Torosaurus. In 2010, John Scanlon and Jack Horner from Montana State University made one of the most controversial claims in modern paleontology. Torosaurus, the long-frilled ceratopsian with the largest skull of any land animal at 2.77 meters, wasn't a separate species. It was just an old Triceratops, and they had evidence that seemed airtight. The bone histology showed Torosaurus specimens had more heavily remodeled tissue than even the biggest Triceratops. About half of subadult Triceratops skulls had thin spots in their frills exactly where Torosaurus has those distinctive fenestrae, the holes in the frill, and critically, nobody had ever found a juvenile Torosaurus, not one. The theory was that as Triceratops aged, its frill kept growing, thinning out, and eventually opening up those holes until it looked like a completely different animal. The counterattack was brutal. In 2012, Nicholas Longrich and Daniel Field examined 36 skulls and found mature Triceratops and immature Torosaurus specimens, directly contradicting the growth stage hypothesis. They argued the thin spots on Triceratops frills were in completely different positions than true Torosaurus fenestrae. A 2013 study used geometric morphometrics and confirmed that Triceratops and Torosaurus occupied different morphological spaces entirely, with distinct growth trajectories. The current consensus, backed by a 2022 study in the Zoological Journal of the Linnaean Society, favors Torosaurus as genuinely separate. But here's why this matters. This isn't just academic hair splitting. If many named dinosaur genera are actually just growth stages of the same animal, then late Cretaceous dinosaur diversity was way lower than we think. That changes everything about how we understand ecosystems and the extinction event itself. Horner's team had more success elsewhere. Their argument that Pachycephalosaurus, Stygimoloch, and Dracorex are all growth stages of one species is now widely accepted, but the Triceratops-Torosaurus debate shows how hard it is to identify species from fossils. We're looking at bones separated by millions of years with no DNA, no behavior, no soft tissue, just mineralized skeletons and educated guesses. And speaking of educated guesses, we spent a century guessing what dinosaurs looked like before discovering we got almost everything catastrophically wrong. Dinosaur appearance? The discovery of Sinosauropteryx in China's Liaoning province in 1996 started a revolution that completely destroyed every dinosaur book ever printed. We now know that over 40 species of non-avian dinosaurs had feathers, not just tiny ones. Yutyrannus huali, described in 2012, weighed 1.4 tons and had filamentous plumage up to 20 centimeters long, the largest feathered animal ever documented, and it gets stranger. Feather-like structures have been found in ornithischian dinosaurs like Culindrodromius, suggesting feathers might go back to the common ancestor of all dinosaurs, but the real breakthrough was melanosomes. These are microscopic pigment structures that actually preserve and fossilize feathers. Jakob Winther pioneered the technique in 2008. By 2010, teams had reconstructed Sinosauropteryx with an orange and white banded tail and a bandit mask facial pattern. Anchiornis was black and white with a splash of red crown feathers. Microraptor gleamed with iridescent black plumage like a raven. In 2018, Kai Hongjuji was found to have rainbow-like structural colors. The era of gray-green dinosaurs was officially dead. The T-Rex feather question is still contested. A 2017 study examined skin impressions from multiple large tyrannosaurs and found only small pebbly scales averaging 3.6 millimeters in diameter. No feathers. But ancestral tyrannosaurs were almost certainly feathered, with probability 88 to 89%. Feather loss likely occurred alongside gigantism. Whether adults kept any downy covering remains unknown. Meanwhile, the All Yesterdays movement launched in 2012 exposed the shrink wrapping problem. We've been drawing dinosaurs like skeletal zombies with every bone visible. Paleoartist John Conway and CM Coastman with paleontologist Darren Naish reconstructed modern animals from skeletons alone. The results were grotesque and unrecognizable. By showing how much soft tissue, fat, and skin we routinely ignore, they proved we have no idea what dinosaurs really looked like. Modern paleoart now embraces uncertainty. Triceratops might have had inflatable nose displays. Sleeping tyrannosaurs might have curled like birds. The true appearance of most dinosaurs was probably far stranger than anything yet imagined. We went from gray, scaly monsters to feathered rainbow animals in 20 years, but appearance is just one mystery. The question of whether dinosaurs were warm-blooded or cold-blooded turned out to have an answer nobody expected. Warm-blooded or cold-blooded? Robert Backer's 1970 1972 paper in Nature arguing dinosaurs were endothermic, warm-blooded, was one of the most important publications in paleontological history. His evidence seemed solid. Erect posture, low predator-prey ratios, fibrolamellar bone structure. The debate lasted decades, and the answer turned out to be none of the above. The pivotal study came in 2014 when Grady and colleagues published in Science a metabolic analysis spanning extant and fossil vertebrates. They found dinosaur metabolic rates fell squarely between endotherms and ectotherms, a strategy they termed mesothermy, shared with modern leatherback turtles, tuna, and great white sharks. These animals generate metabolic heat but regulate temperature less precisely than mammals or birds. Michael Dima countered in 2015 that adjusting for seasonal growth pauses pushed dinosaurs into the mammalian range, but the mesothermy concept stuck. Then, direct temperature measurements became possible through clumped isotope thermometry. This analyzes bonding patterns of rare isotopes in eggshells. Robert Eagle at UCLA measured sauropod body temperatures at 36 to 38 degrees Celsius, essentially mammalian. In 2020, Robin Dawson's Yale-led team found all three major dinosaur lineages maintained temperatures significantly above their environments. Troodon at 38 degrees, Maiasaura at 44 degrees. Their conclusion was emphatic. Metabolically controlled thermoregulation was the ancestral condition for Dinosauria. A 2023 study using dual clumped isotopes found Troodon exhibited fluctuating body temperatures, heterothermic endothermy. Like some modern birds and mammals, the emerging picture is a metabolic spectrum. Small feathered theropods near the bird lineage were likely true endotherms. Massive sauropods benefited from inertial homeothermy. Their sheer bulk stabilized temperature regardless of metabolism. Medium-sized dinosaurs probably operated as mesotherms. The traditional cold-blooded label is now untenable for any dinosaur group. Here's what this means. Dinosaurs weren't sluggish reptiles waiting for the sun to warm them. They were active, metabolically complex animals with diverse thermoregulatory strategies depending on size and environment and lineage. The warm versus cold debate was asking the wrong question. Dinosaurs were something else entirely, but even knowing their metabolism, nobody expected what Mary Schweitzer found when she dissolved a T-Rex bone in acid. What came out should have been impossible, and it changed everything we thought we knew about fossilization. Soft tissue preservation. In 2005, Mary Schweitzer of North Carolina State University dissolved a fragment of T-Rex femur in dilute acid. Specimen MOR 1125 from Montana's Hell Creek Formation. What she found should have been impossible: flexible blood vessels, cell-like structures with internal contents, transparent tissue that waved in the breeze, right? Schweitzer recalled, I just said this isn't happening. The paleontological world reacted with similar disbelief. Skeptics mounted serious challenges. In 2008, Kay and colleagues argued the structures were bacterial biofilm, not original tissue. Schweitzer responded by analyzing an 80-million-year-old hadrosaur, Brachylophosaurus canadensis, rushed from excavation to lab. The results destroyed the biofilm hypothesis. White collagen fibers with embedded cells, amino acid sequences matching chicken collagen, a protein bacteria cannot produce. Subsequent work identified collagen, actin, tubulin, hemoglobin, and osteocalcin across multiple specimens spanning different species, ages, and burial environments. The preservation mechanism centers on iron. Schweitzer's 2013 and 2014 research demonstrated that iron from blood hemoglobin acts like formaldehyde, cross-linking proteins and making them decay-resistant. Ostrich blood vessels soaked in hemoglobin solution showed no degradation for over 2 years while controls disintegrated in 3 days. Additional factors include rapid burial, mineral association, Fenton chemistry, and glycation. A 2025 study confirmed soft tissue vessel preservation may not be that uncommon across multiple dinosaur species. The most spectacular preservation is Borealopelta mark-mitchelli, a 110-million-year-old nodosaur discovered in 2011 at an Alberta oil sand mine. After nearly 6 years of preparation by technician Mark Mitchell, the specimen emerged as a three-dimensional Ewing-flattened dinosaur with preserved skin, armor, keratin sheaths, and stomach contents from its last meal. Primarily ferns with charcoal, indicating it grazed after a wildfire. Melanin analysis revealed reddish-brown countershading, proof that that even a 1,300 kilogram armored dinosaur needed camouflage from visual predators. DNA, however, remains firmly out of reach. Theoretical calculations suggest complete degradation after roughly 6.8 million years, making Jurassic Park scenarios impossible. But proteins can survive under the right conditions for tens of millions of years longer. That's why we can now study actual dinosaur biomolecules, not just mineralized shapes. This discovery fundamentally changed what we thought fossils could preserve, but it also revealed something else. Like, if soft tissue can survive, maybe other assumptions about dinosaur behavior need revisiting, like the idea that raptors hunted in coordinated packs, which turns out to be almost entirely Hollywood fiction. Pack hunting raptors. The Jurassic Park image of coordinated velociraptor packs stalking prey with military precision is one of cinema's most compelling dinosaur depictions, and almost certainly wrong. Real Velociraptor was turkey-sized, 1.5 to 2 meters long, 14 to 20 kilograms, feathered, and no Velociraptor specimen has ever been found in association with another. The pack hunting idea originated with John Ostrom's 1969 discovery of multiple Deinonychus skeletons around a Tenontosaurus carcass in Montana. But in 2007, Brian Roach and Daniel Brinkman at Yale's Peabody Museum proposed a devastating alternative, the Komodo dragon model. No living bird or reptile engages in cooperative pack hunting, 0. Komodo dragons, however, converge from up to 11 kilometers away when blood is spilled, feeding in aggressive hierarchies where smaller individuals are excluded or cannibalized. Roach and Brinkman found evidence of intraspecific aggression and cannibalism at the Deinonychus type locality, consistent with competitive mob feeding, not cooperation. In 2020, Fredrickson and colleagues delivered the strongest blow yet. Stable carbon isotope analysis of Deinonychus teeth showed juveniles and adults ate different prey, exactly like Komodo dragons, where juveniles are arboreal to avoid cannibalistic adults, and precisely unlike wolf packs, which share kills across age groups. The data shows raptors probably competed with each other over carcasses rather than coordinating attacks. Broader dinosaur social behavior, however, is better supported. In 2021, Diego Pohl and collaborators reported the earliest evidence of herd living from 193-million-year-old Mosaurus patagonicus deposits in Patagonia. Over 100 eggs and 80 individuals showing clear age segregation with nests in one area, intertwined juveniles in another, and adults found separately. A 2021 Tyrannosaur bone bed in Utah's Rainbows and Unicorns Quarry provided geochemical evidence that multiple tyrannosaurs died together, hinting at social behavior in T-Rex's relatives. The picture emerging is one of gregarious but not necessarily cooperative dinosaurs, herding and nesting colonially, but likely not coordinating hunts. This fundamentally changes how we imagine dinosaur intelligence and social complexity. They gathered, they nested together, they may have communicated, but strategic pack hunting like wolves, no evidence supports it. Jurassic Park got the feathers wrong, the size wrong, and the behavior wrong. And speaking of intelligence, there's been a fierce debate in the last few years about whether dinosaurs were secretly as smart as primates. The answer involves some very bold claims and some very aggressive rebuttals. Dinosaur intelligence. In June 2023, Vanderbilt neuroanatomist Susanna Herculano-Hausel published a bombshell claim. T-Rex possessed approximately 3.3 billion cortical neurons, comparable to a baboon, and potentially had what it takes to build tools, solve problems, and build a culture. She arrived at this figure by applying bird-like neuronal scaling rules to CT-derived brain mass estimates, reasoning that theropods were warm-blooded animals with bird-like brains. The media went insane. Smart dinosaurs building culture, the rebuttal was swift and comprehensive. In April 2024, Kai Kasper of Heinrich Heine University led an interdisciplinary team that identified critical flaws. First, Herculano-Hausel assumed T-Rex's brain filled 100% of its brain case. In reality, like modern crocodilians, the brain likely occupied only 30 to 40% of the endocranial cavity, floating in cerebrospinal fluid. Second, using reptilian rather than avian neuron density scaling reduced estimates to 245 to 360 million neurons, crocodile level, not baboon level. Third, much of T-Rex's forebrain was devoted to olfactory processing. It had exceptional smell, with an estimated 600 plus olfactory receptor genes, not higher cognition. The smartest dinosaur title traditionally belongs to Troodon, now often called Stenonychosaurus, with an an encephalization quotient of 5.8, a brain 6 times larger than expected for a reptile of its size. In 1982, Dale Russell famously extrapolated Trudon's brain growth trend to produce the Dinosauroid, a humanoid thought experiment that drew both fascination and ridicule. Modern paleontologists consider Trudon's intelligence comparable to modern bustards or opossums, impressive for a dinosaur, nowhere near primate level. The fundamental problem is that intelligence cannot be measured in fossils. Brains don't fossilize. Only bony brain cases survive, and they don't reveal internal organization. Neuron counts alone mean little. Magpies with 400 million neurons play games and hold funerals, while giraffes with 2 billion show no comparable behavior. What CT scans of brain cases do reveal is that T-Rex had excellent binocular vision, exceptional smell, and sensitive low-frequency hearing, the sensory toolkit of a formidable predator even without baboon-level cognition. Here's the reality: dinosaurs were probably about as smart as modern reptiles and birds of similar size, some smarter than others, but tool-using, culture-building dinosaurs, there's zero evidence. The 2023 study was based on flawed assumptions and wishful extrapolation. T-Rex was a brilliant predator with incredible senses. It wasn't a genius. But if T-Rex wasn't roaring and wasn't particularly intelligent, what sounds did it actually make? The answer involves some very strange anatomy and some very uncomfortable truths about Jurassic Park. Dinosaur sounds. The thunderous T-Rex roar of Jurassic Park, cobbled from elephant bellows, tiger growls, and alligator hisses in a sound studio, is almost certainly fiction. The reason is anatomical. No non-avian dinosaur fossil has ever preserved a syrinx, the uniquely avian vocal organ that produces complex bird calls. In 2016, Julia Clark at UT Austin published the discovery of the oldest known fossilized syrinx from Vegavis III, a duck relative that lived alongside dinosaurs 66 to 69 million years ago in Antarctica. The syrinx showed asymmetric bronchial rings and a mineralized pecilus, indicating Vegavis could produce honking sounds. Crucially, Clark concluded the syrinx was a late arising feature in bird evolution. Non-avian dinosaurs almost certainly lacked it. So what sounds could they make? That same year, Tobias Reed and Clark published a study of closed mouth vocalization across 208 bird species, finding this behavior evolved independently at least 16 times in archosaurs. Closed mouth sounds, produced by inflating esophageal pouches with the mouth shut, generate low-pitched booms, coos, and rumbles. Think dove cooing or ostrich booming. Since both surviving archosaur groups, birds and crocodilians, can produce these sounds, and the behavior only occurs in animals dove-sized or larger, many dinosaurs likely made deep, resonant, closed-mouth vocalizations. Clark suggested dinosaurs may have had bulging necks and made booming sounds. The most dramatic vocal evidence comes from Parasaurolophus, whose hollow tubular crest functioned as a resonance chamber. In 1997, computer scientist Carl Diegert at Sandia National Laboratory CT scanned a nearly complete skull and produced the first digital reconstruction of a dinosaur call, a low-frequency rumbling sound with variable pitch, possibly individually distinctive. Each Parasaurolophus may have had its own voice. In 2024, NYU researcher Hongjun Lin built a physical 1:1.5 scale model of the crest to refine acoustic predictions. Rather than dramatic roars, the Cretaceous soundscape was likely filled with booms, rumbles, hisses, and from hadrosaur crests, eerie, resonant calls unlike anything alive today. T-Rex probably produced deep closed mouth vocalizations, possibly audible from kilometers away, but nothing like the high-pitched screams Hollywood invented. The terrifying part wouldn't have been the volume, it would have been feeling a subsonic boom in your chest before you saw the predator. Every Jurassic Park roar, every documentary sound effect, every childhood memory of what dinosaurs sounded like is wrong. They cooed, they boomed, they rumbled, but they didn't roar. And if the sounds are wrong, the extinction story is somehow even more complicated than we thought. Because while everyone knows an asteroid killed the dinosaurs, the full story involves volcanic eruptions, springtime mass death, and a debate that's still raging in 2025. The extinction event. The Chicxulub asteroid impact is confirmed beyond reasonable doubt. A 10 to 15 kilometer asteroid struck Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula 66.04 million years ago, releasing energy equivalent to 100 terajoule megaparatons of TNT. The evidence: a global iridium layer, shocked quartz, tektites, and in 2024, ruthenium isotope confirmation of a carbonaceous chondrite impactor is overwhelming. A 2020 study found the asteroid hit at roughly 60 degrees, the deadliest possible angle for maximizing atmospheric sulfur and dust injection. But the question of whether the asteroid acted alone has fueled one of paleontology's most productive debates. The Deccan Traps in India, one of Earth's largest volcanic provinces exceeding 1.3 million cubic kilometers of erupted lava, were active across the extinction window spanning roughly 66.3 to 65.6 million years ago. In 2015, UC Berkeley researchers proposed a 1-2 punch theory. Seismic energy from the impact, equivalent to a magnitude 10+ earthquake, may have doubled Deccan eruption rates within 50,000 years. However, Pincelli-Hull's landmark 2020 science paper used carbon cycle modeling to demonstrate that major Deccan outgassing began and ended roughly 200,000 years before the impact, making the asteroid the sole driver of extinction. Hull concluded a lot of people have speculated that volcanoes mattered. We're saying no, they didn't. The most vivid evidence comes from the Tanis site in North Dakota, excavated by Robert De Palma beginning in 2012. This 1.3 meter thick deposit formed in just hours, beginning roughly 13 minutes after impact. Seismic waves triggered 10-meter seiches that entombed hundreds of articulated fish with impact spherules lodged in their gill rakers, proof they were breathing ejecta fallout as they died. The site also preserved a Thescelosaurus leg with skin, Triceratops skin, and a baby pterosaur. Fishbone growth patterns indicate the catastrophe struck in springtime. Whether dinosaurs were already declining remains genuinely disputed. Condamine and colleagues reported declining diversity beginning 76 million years ago, but multiple 2025 studies suggest this apparent decline is a sampling artifact caused by deteriorating fossil record quality in the final millions of years. The extinction was geologically instantaneous but biologically extended. The impact itself took minutes, but the killing via dust-blocked photosynthesis, impact winter, acid rain, and ocean acidification unfolded over years to decades of cascading ecological collapse. Here's what we know for certain: the asteroid hit, the dinosaurs died, the volcanoes were mostly irrelevant, and we have a fossil site that captured the literal day of the apocalypse, preserving fish that were breathing asteroid debris as they suffocated. The extinction mystery isn't really about what killed them anymore. It's about the precise timeline and mechanics of planetary death. But before the extinction, one dinosaur was doing something so bizarre that scientists still can't agree on what it was. And it involves one of the strangest fossils ever lost and rediscovered: Spinosaurus. No dinosaur has been reimagined more radically or more frequently than Spinosaurus. The original fossils, described by Ernst Stromer in 1915, were destroyed in a British bombing raid on Munich on April 24, 1944. A tragedy compounded by the fact that Stromer, an aristocrat who opposed Nazism, had begged the museum's Nazi-aligned curator to relocate them. For decades, Spinosaurus existed only in Stromer's notes and photographs. The resurrection began in 2008 when paleontologist Nizar Ibrahim bought unusual bones from a Moroccan fossil dealer. Years of detective work, including a miraculous chance encounter with the dealer at an airfood cafe in 2013, led to the 2014 science publication revealing a radically unfamiliar animal: remarkably short hind legs, dense limb bones, retracted nostrils, and flat feet. The first evidence of a truly semi-aquatic dinosaur. In 2020, Ibrahim's team published the discovery of a paddle-like tail fin, proposing Spinosaurus swam like an eel as a fully aquatic pursuit predator. The backlash was equally dramatic. In 2022, Paul Serino and Nathan Marvold published digital modeling showing Spinosaurus would be unstable and slow in water, with swimming power an order of magnitude less than an alligator's. They proposed a giant heron model, a semi-aquatic wader that snatched fish from shallows. That same year, Matteo Fabri compared bone cross-sections from 250 species and found Spinosaurus had osteosclerotic, dense bones like penguins and manatees, supporting substantial submersion. Braincast analysis in 2023 showed Spinosaurus inclined its head downward like a heron scanning water. At an estimated 15 to 17 meters long, Spinosaurus was likely the longest predatory dinosaur ever, 10 feet longer than T-Rex. Its sail, with neural spines reaching nearly 1.8 meters, may have served for display, thermoregulation, or as a visible marker above the waterline while partially submerged. Oxygen isotope ratios from its teeth confirm confirm an aquatic diet. The truth probably lies between the extremes. Fabry notes that crocodiles and hippos spend lots of time both on land and underwater, and Spinosaurus likely did the same. The mystery persists because no complete skeleton exists, no modern analog matches its bizarre anatomy, and every major new discovery in 2014, 2020, and 2022 has flipped the narrative again. Was it a swimmer, a waiter, something in between? The debate is so fierce because the stakes are so high. If Spinosaurus was truly aquatic, it represents a lifestyle no other large theropod ever achieved. If it was a waiter, it's still one of the strangest predators in Earth's history. Either way, it's a 15-meter long carnivore with a sail taller than a human and a skull built for catching fish. But here's the final mystery, and it's one that just got solved in January 2026. Rewriting textbooks that were published last year, how long did it actually take a T-Rex to grow up? The answer shocked everyone. Growth rates. For 2 decades, the accepted picture of T-Rex growth was dramatic. A 4-year adolescent growth spurt, during which the animal gained over 2 kilograms per day, reaching full size by age 18 to 20 and dying by roughly 28. This framework, established by Greg Erickson of Florida State University in a landmark 2004 Nature paper analyzing 7 T-Rex specimens, placed Tyrannosaur life histories closer to large mammals than to reptiles. In January 2026, Holly Woodward of Oklahoma State University upended this picture entirely. Using cross-polarized light on thin bone sections from 17 T-Rex specimens, the largest dataset ever assembled, her team discovered previously invisible growth rings that standard microscopy had missed for decades. The revised estimate, T-Rex took approximately 40 years to reach full adult size of roughly 8.8 tons, not 25. Growth was more gradual and steady, with year-to-year variation reflecting environmental conditions rather than a single dramatic spurt. Lindsay Zano of the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences called it a growth curve for Tyrannosaurus that we can feel confident in. The implications ripple outward. Sue, the famous Field Museum T-Rex, previously aged at 28, was likely older. Scotty, the largest known T-Rex specimen at 8,870 kilograms and 42 feet long, died at roughly age 30, still growing. The extended growth timeline suggests young tyrannosaurs spent decades at mid-body sizes, filling different ecological roles than adults. Thomas Carr of Carthage College noted, "I expect that the estimates of growth curves of other dinosaurs will now have to be revisited. Growth rate data remain among the strongest evidence in the warm-blooded debate. Even at revised, more gradual rates, tyrannosaurs grew far faster than any modern reptile, consistent with elevated metabolism. Sauropods present the extreme case. Alamosaurus took an estimated 45 years to reach maturity, Apatosaurus possibly 70 plus years, achieving their enormous sizes through sustained mammal-like growth rates coupled with efficient avian-style respiratory systems. The variable growth ring spacing Woodward discovered, some years showing substantial growth, others minimal, suggests a metabolic flexibility more nuanced than either warm-blooded or cold-blooded can capture, echoing the mesothermy findings from isotope studies. Here's what this means. We've been aging dinosaurs wrong for 20 years. Every museum label, every documentary, every textbook published before 2026 has the timeline wrong. T-Rex wasn't a fast-burning teenager that died young. It was a slow-growing giant that took 4 decades to mature. That changes how we understand population structure, predation dynamics, and ecological competition. Young tyrannosaurs weren't just small adults. They were occupying completely different niches for decades. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.